Well, greetings to everybody from the Caribbean Sea, from Tulum. This is the place where I'm staying right now to teach some Gong seminars. And I want to talk to you about something that I see all the time happening, unfortunately, which is the fact that we are cheating ourselves and we are getting lost into some kind of spiritual ideas that really make the journey endless. In fact, I do believe one thing, that if there is no conflict in a human being, there is no search. So if there is nothing that is creating a conflict within ourselves, there is no necessity to go and fix it. Whether it is unhappiness, whether it is a sense of low esteem, whether it is life circumstances and we don't like, so we don't try to fix them. And unfortunately, and I was there too, in this kind of childish way of approaching spirituality, we get into all sorts of beliefs, ceremonies, and gurus, teachings, experiences. And this is the kind of place where probably all these things are sold, in the sense that many people come to Tulum to experience some kind of spiritual relief, or doing some kind of medicine drug or whatever it is. So a quick fix to the problem. But as long as we look for the problems and for the solutions outside, we're never going to finish the thing, because we don't try to fix this if we don't try to understand how we are operating, what's happening within ourselves, and observe it first to later transcend it by having the right vision and by applying some tools. The journey is endless. In fact, we can go to the next ceremony and we're gonna go through up and downs. We go to the next ayahuasca experience or DMT experience, and we feel great a couple of days, or we feel in contact with God, what such a word, with for a few days, and then everything comes back to normal. Life kicks again. That's why I think we need to work with the body practically. That was the big revolution that I experienced in my life in a practical way with the Gong system. But also was very useful to come from a Buddhist background where I received a very important teaching, if I can call it like this, in the sense that I was exposed to the teaching of the wheel of life of Buddha, which is an explanation of the nature of the mind, how we get messed up into our perceptions. And for sure, having these two things, so a vision and a method to address, if I can say, the problem, the uncomfortable situations we live as human beings, because we're never satisfied. For sure, it helped me to fix the problem and to come to a point where the spiritual search really ended. In fact, the spiritual experiences, they begin when the spiritual search ends, because when we search, we still are looking at the world with many ideas that are filtering the reality between what it is and what we think it is. But when all those things will finish, we can just witness things for what they are. Even the word "I witness," it's wrong, because in reality it's just observation takes place without the idea of an observer, of a thinker, which is something quite widely discussed, this thing of being the observer. But in reality, if we go even deeper, we might discover that even the idea of the observer, it's just an idea, because there is just observation. The idea of the observer is, and first you observe, and then there is the idea of somebody observing actually. But observation is a constant movement that happens in our experience. And actually it's the only one which is constant, because if you think about this, when you were young, you were observing, so to speak, your thoughts, your emotions, your life circumstances. They all changed. Even your body changed, but your ability of perceiving was there all the time. While now we have different thoughts, different circumstances, different emotions. Still, the ability of perceiving is there all the time, which is life itself, in one way. And that space, it's free from sex, free from age, free from ideas, free from concept, free from social mechanism. That's really the base of who we are. But it's very difficult for us to stay in that state, because we are constantly caught into the realm of perceptions, either thoughts or external perceptions that make us feel ultimately separate and identified with all those things. Well, I'm discuss all these things deeply into some Patreon meeting that I'm doing, some monthly gathering that I'm doing on Zoom on the Patreon community. I will put the link somewhere so you can follow. When we're investigating together, using the tool of the wheel of life, the nature of ourselves, by seeing the problem first in a very practical way. This is not some kind of philosophy or theory that we embrace. We are trying to see the problem, which of course requires lots of attention and will to end the problem once for all. Because let's be clear about this. Sometimes we don't want to end our spirituality because, you know, there is so much involvement with the rituals, with the beliefs, and with the identity of the spiritual identity we created, and we think that it is better than the normal identity that we meet on the road, that there is resistance most of the time in investigating and discussing it. But ultimately the best thing that can happen to a human being is optimize himself or herself, oneself, energetically, physically, emotionally and mentally. And this is truly the Qigong thing. And also having a vision about who we are deeply, so that even we can use the Qigong to grow even more in other directions. Because Qigong is not just about some kind of superpowers that we develop. Qigong is about developing and optimize human beings to the next level, to work efficiently in life, to have more energy, and to express ourselves in our potential in anything that we naturally do. It's not about acquiring some ideas, but we for sure need also a great understanding of who we are to know, to avoid of getting caught only into the catch of the superpowers that Qigong is able to develop. In fact, Qigong is not about that, in my opinion. Qigong is about discovering greater human possibilities and perceptions that happens when the false idea of the ego that never existed is finally recognized as as an illusion that was there and we were feeding all the time. And that's the best thing that can happen to a human being, really freeing himself or herself and living life normally, with no concept. Observing constantly, experiencing constantly this natural unfolding which doesn't require much effort. So I invite you to check the Patreon page if you're interested into this topic, to gain a vision of the nature of ourselves, to understand the problems, to understand how we can fix the problems, and to discover that the problem was never there actually, it was created by us. And also to explore the Qigong practices, because the Qigong practices are a very down-to-earth way of working with the body to build a strong base and to discover something which is really surprising for me all the time, which is the vital energy, which is not based on fake sensation, light sensation. It's based on working with life itself on a very powerful level. That this means enhancing ourselves to a great degree. These are the two tools that I've learned in my life. I'm not a guru, I'm somebody who's sharing just what he learned, that it worked for me, with the hope that it can work for you. And I will do my best to get it done with you together. And so check this website. I send you greetings from Tulum. I arrived yesterday. I lived in this place in the past. It's quite amazing, especially when you don't have these weeds here, but it's super nice. And we look forward to the next video.